There is no question that artificial intelligence can be a great way to motivate, justify, and invigorate any project, especially an SAP migration. But for it to work, we need the help of RAII. RAII stands for Return on Artificial Intelligence Investment. So in this session, I'm going to cover some key questions that you need to ask yourself to determine a good RAII for your project. The first thing to be aware of is there's no shortage of good ideas. So in this example, I'm taking a PDF of a business process that I have with a clever bit of prompting. I'm getting Gemini to research where I can use AI specific to that particular process. And after a few moments, the AI returns a report explaining clearly some fantastic ideas of how I can apply artificial intelligence. But the problem is, a good idea doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have strong ROI. So let's dig into this a little bit and understand how we find a good RAII for my project. First question we've got to ask ourselves is this really an AI problem? For example, in the workshops that I run, I often find that if I have 20 ideas in the workshop, 10 of them aren't even AI at all. When you go back to the root of them, they might be a data problem, a configuration problem, or an application issue. Of the other 10, 5 will be generative AI, and the other 5 may well be machine learning. Anything that's related to predicting is likely a machine learning problem. So let's start with the fact that if we're going to use agents and generative AI, let's really ask the question, is this a generative AI problem in the first place? And there's all sorts of models that you can use to determine that. I really like this one that's been generated by my friend Kieran. And the next question we should ask ourselves is, where should I focus? Just because Matthew thinks AI is fantastic and wants to bring it into his part of the enterprise doesn't mean that that's where the return is. So one of the things that we've done at Google to help this is to pull together a database of agentic projects that we know that have returned ROI. Great. I've got a set of use cases that I've got confidence are going to give me the return that I'm looking for from AI. But I'm missing 2 very important things that are going to help me realize that value. The first thing is, what is the cultural impact associated to implementing those use cases? Again, we can use the AI to understand this impact. By interrogating the database with the agents that we've chosen, we can infer from those projects where the impact's likely to be within inside an organization. And we can see what cultural things that we need to take into account. Are there any common threads that we can build a change management plan around? But we have one other thing that's going to cause friction. Technical friction. Now, the biggest technical friction for machine learning projects was having all the data in one place. And so over the last few years, we spent a lot of time aggregating our data into large data warehouses. And that is still important. The combination of agentic large language models with machine learned data is really where the solutions are going to come from. Great, thanks for hanging in. We're almost there. We've got a great project. We figured out our cultural change. We understand what we need from a technology perspective. The only question left is, how do I make this a measurable process? I can't be doing this as a one-off project. I need to put these projects into a process so I can understand how they fit together from a bigger strategic objective. In Alphabet, we've got a very simple but very effective process. It's almost like a funnel of opportunities. So we start with the business process owners coming up with early ideas and early opportunities, and they may try them out with some standard tooling and technology. We then incubate those ideas so that we can understand how to scale them. And then finally, we build that into a more formalized requirements documentation and more formalized approach. If you look across the top, you can see as we go through each one of these steps, this organic bottom-up approach is being connected to an overall set of objectives for the department as well as the business in general. So there you have it. The AI party is fun and it's exciting. But if we don't spend the time defining a use case where we know there's return, rather than just jumping at the first thing that we see, or we don't recognize the cultural and technical friction that we have with that particular use case, so we can never scale it up into production, and we don't have a clear idea how this fits into a corporate review. Now, it's okay, as you've seen, for us to incubate things as long as that incubation connects back into some sort of departmental or corporate strategy for AI. In our AI party, RAII may not be the most exciting person that we'll invite along, but they are very important. And it's likely that they're the person that's going to drive us home safely at the end of the night. Let me know what you think.